Welcome to the Fabulous 50s and Beyond. I'm Jim Pollard, your host for the day, and we have another exciting program on, one that I hope you will pay attention to because we want it to be educational as well as interesting. We're going to talk about the 40th anniversary of the Paducah Symphony Orchestra. You stay tuned and we'll be right back.
And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race. Keep your own pace. Keep moving and never stop. Just go. Go with what you got.
Welcome back. Our guests today are Morgan Walker and Reece King. And I'm glad to have you with us today. I don't think we've ever done a show about the Paducah Symphony. And when I saw that you were having your 40th anniversary, I always like to celebrate anniversaries. And we really wanted to talk about, I've been to the symphony and throughout the years, and I've enjoyed it. I've actually participated in the symphony in some of those years as your Santa Claus, and that was fun. It was a barrel of monkeys for fun. The kids and the adults too. You know, I used to do public speaking, and when I would have a crowd in front of me speaking as Santa, I would say, "How many of you still believe?" Well, half the audience would raise their hand, even though they were adults. I said, "Yeah, and you get nice presents for Christmas, don't you?" And they would say, "Yeah," and I said, "The rest of you, you get shoes, socks, and underwear." And they'd laugh and say, "Yeah, that's true." But I'm so glad to have you all with us today, and we want to talk about the symphony and its celebration because symphonies are very important to a community. They help provide support for a community, and I think they help provide support in bringing industry and business into a community also. So let's talk a little bit about the past, when it started. You may know some of the names. You all are too young to have been there, but you may know some of the names of those that helped start it.
Well, you know, a lot of times people don't realize that I've been with the symphony as long as I have because I've actually been there 32 years. And so I always joke and tell everybody that I started when I was about 5 years old. But so I haven't been there the whole time, but almost the whole history. But the orchestra was started at the Summer Festival in 1979, and there was a group of people in the community. I think Tom Wilson was the organizer of the Summer Festival at that time, and he approached Doug Van Fleet about a group to perform on the final concert of the Summer Festival, which would have been the Saturday night before the fireworks. And Doug put together a group of musicians and they played the concert, and it went so well that there were several people in the community that said, wouldn't it be great to keep this going? And so then the first official concert of the Paducah Symphony took place in December of 1979, because really that Summer Festival concert was not a symphony concert, but it grew out of that performance. And so the first season, I believe there was 2 concerts, and then it grew, and you know, now we have 7 concerts per season typically, and then maybe, you know, a few other run-outs at schools and different things like that. So it's really amazing that a community our size has a symphony orchestra, because most towns that would have a symphony like ours are double or triple our size and population. So that's something that we're very proud of, that we have the symphony orchestra in a town the size of Paducah.
Well, I think it's great that we have one too. And Morgan, in your capacity as general manager, right? Mm-hmm. And you're the executive director.
Correct.
What is involved in your function there?
Well, I am responsible for the day-to-day management of the orchestra, mostly administrative. And, you know, Reece oversees and is our financial man, and also manages the personnel in the orchestra. But I handle things like marketing, fundraising, development, special events, and some box office operations as well.
And having started like it did, How long did it take it before it began to really blossom?
Well, you know, it grew pretty quickly because I started playing in 1987, and Jordan Tang came in 1986, which he was our conductor for, I think it was 24 years, isn't that right? And before he was there was a couple of other conductors. Well, David Weddle was the very first conductor, and he was a teacher in town. I believe he was at Paducah Tillman High School. In fact, I think he was Doug Van Fleet's assistant at Paducah Tillman. And then we had two conductors from Murray State. Bob Barr, who was the director of choral activities at Murray, was a conductor for a while, and then Gerald Welker, who was the director of bands, was also a conductor. So by the time, you know, the symphony hired Jordan, which would have been in 1986, he was probably our first, what you would consider first full-time conductor. So that was only about 6.5 years from the beginning. So it grew pretty quickly into an established organization.
Was the Paducah Choral group already formed, or did it come and weave in with the symphony?
The symphony chorus was formed in 1980, so 1 year after the symphony started. And I don't know that it was a full calendar year, but it was in the next calendar year. So they've been in existence for 39 years. So it's you know, and I think that mainly grew out of Christmas concerts and those types of things where you needed a choral ensemble. But you know, now it's grown into, they do their own performances standalone in addition to performing with the symphony.
Yeah, I've known some of the teenagers that were in there through my other work and different things, and I think it's a great education for them to learn to do that. I would take nothing for my high school quote-unquote non-credited training that I got. You know, I learned speaking, debating, and everything as extra credit, or no credit in high school, because when I was in high school, these were all extracurricular activities. You didn't get credits for that. You were on the debate team, and that was great. If you were good enough, you got a letter at the end of the year that had debate written on it, you know, and things like that. And I really appreciate the education that I got when I was in school, and that I was able to have a diverse education. I think having these boys and girls, young men, young women, go through this. Now, do you have a youth symphony also yet?
We do not. The choral ensemble started with the adults in 1980. I don't know exactly when the first youth chorus or children's chorus was started.
I think it was somewhere around 10 years later.
But now we have the children's chorus, the youth chorus, and the adult chorus. You know, in addition to that, we have the summer music camp that happens every year, which is part of our education program. So there's lots of opportunities for youth to be involved. Now, there is an audition process for the youth and children's choruses, but not for summer music camp. So summer music camp has instrumental, choral, all kinds of opportunities. So that's something that, you know, the youth in our area can take advantage of every year in the summer. And some of those students go on to be a part of our youth and children's chorus.
Right.
So
the director, how long has he been there now?
Our current conductor, Raffaele Ponte, is our artistic director and conductor, and he started in 2010, was his first full season. So this is his 9th season.
And let's talk about this year's season, some of the programs. That would be you, wouldn't it?
Well, it's both of us. But yeah, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary with a really wonderful season of classical concerts, plus our December concert, which is our annual Christmas celebration. Bringing in some incredible guest artists to celebrate: David Kim, the concertmaster of the Philadelphia Orchestra. We've got a wonderful pianist, Terrace Wilson. We've got some amazing vocal soloists throughout the season, including a local, Emily Black, who will be performing on the holiday concert. We're also doing some really amazing masterworks. We've got Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto, let's see, Elgar's Cello Concerto, Mozart's Requiem. So it's a wonderful, wonderful season.
I'm familiar with Emily through Market House again, and her activity there, tremendous voice and great talent. You know, Paducah's blessed with a lot of great talent.
Absolutely.
They are. And another thing, and I know this is part of yours, is fundraising, both of you probably, but I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday in Nashville, and I said, Paducah impresses me as one of the most giving communities that I know of. And I've lived in several in my lifetime, that they really take part in their agencies and support activities, and they give. I mean, and they go out, they work, they participate, and they give. And I think that's admirable about this community.
That's why we're still here, ultimately. We have a really generous community and volunteers that made this happen.
Yeah. Can I ask you, what is your budget for a year?
We are right around $1 million on our budget. And, you know, to the average listener, that might sound like a lot, but when you start cutting orchestra payrolls, you know, and some people are unaware that the symphony is a professional orchestra. It's not a volunteer, it's not a community orchestra, it is a professional orchestra. So these musicians, a typical concert will have musicians from about 5 or 6 different states. They drive in from St. Louis, Nashville, Louisville area. We have some local musicians. One of the reasons that I'm living in Paducah is that I started playing in the symphony when I was in college, and so did my wife. And we moved away, and then when we moved back, it was just natural for us to come to Paducah because the symphony was kind of our home. So, you know, there's a wide range of people that come in to play, and some of them are college teachers, some of them are just what we call gigging professionals, where they're freelance musicians, but they are paid, and they come into town and stay for the weekend, and we do a concert on Saturday night. So our weekend typically starts on Friday afternoon, and then we end on Saturday night, and most of them stay over Saturday night and drive home on Sunday. And several of them do this in several different orchestras, you know, so they're making their living doing this type of work. So
that you know, that's something that a lot of people don't realize, is that all of these different functions, events that go on and have these quote-unquote professional, they are professional, they get paid. I mean, talent at the telethon gets paid, and all of these different things. And it's people just don't realize that. They think all the money goes in to support the organization. Well, it is supporting the organization, but it's helping pay for those who work for the organization also.
Well, the administrative part of our budget is less than 25% of our budget. So you can see that the majority of it goes to either promoting what we're doing or paying for what we're doing.
Right.
So the you know, if you took a survey of the musicians on stage on a typical symphony concert, I would say the vast majority have at least a master's degree in music. Several of them have DMAs, you know, which is considered the terminal degree typically, rather than a PhD in the music field. But highly educated musicians, and several of them have played for years and years professionally. We also have a lot of young folks on the stage, and sometimes people think the symphony is kind of a stuffy and an older person's, you know, game, but we actually have a lot of young musicians on the stage that are in their 20s and 30s. So if you haven't been to a symphony concert, I would encourage you to come, because I think you'd be surprised by what you see on the stage.
Speaking of coming, you mentioned about new memberships. Tell us, at half price, tell us that. Oh,
yes. We offer subscriptions to new subscribers, so season tickets, each year at 50% off. So if you've never subscribed with us, you can do so at half price for your first year, which works out to be a pretty good deal.
So the idea is to get them there and hook them.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
Which is excellent. I have nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great idea.
Well, and something that you know, along the lines of what we were talking about with the age of the musicians, is this season being the 40th anniversary, the logo or the catchphrase for the season is 40 years and beyond, and it really is a mix of past and future. And so our guest artists, all except one of them, have been here before. And the very first concert is a recreation, the first half is a recreation of the original 1979 December concert. So we have, a lot of new pieces. We're doing a piece by an American female composer this year, which is something that a lot of orchestras around the country are featuring this year. But our guest artists we have David Kim, as she mentioned, from Philadelphia, but Terrence Wilson is, I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but he's young. I know that. But he was a last-minute fill-in for a guest artist that became ill a few years ago, and he did such a great job that our conductor wanted to have him back in a regular role.
Right.
So I think if you haven't been to the symphony, as Morgan said, you get 50% off, but there's a lot of things in this season that a new person would find very interesting, I think.
Well, that's good. I know the Christmas celebration is dynamite.
That's always the most popular.
Yeah, and it's just to see it all come together, everyone who takes part in it, that really makes it. Now, I've been there when they're rehearsing and when they're lining up and going through all of this and backstage with them to see, and those kids, they love it. They love taking part in it, and a lot of the adults do too. I mean, it's fun for them.
Right.
And that's what, and if it's fun, it's not work.
That's right.
And that's the good thing about it. But it's been, it was really interesting to watch all of that and see how it takes place. All right, you talked about and beyond, 40 years and beyond. Well, that's kind of our name too, 50 years and beyond, But what is the beyond part of the symphony?
Well, we hope we're still here.
Yeah. Well, I know you plan on being here, but what do you plan on doing while you're here?
Well, we're working on, the next season right now. Raffaele, our conductor, is working on that. We're not ready to announce that yet,
right,
but
sure.
the programming is in the planning stages. We have several things on the planning board that we really can't get into right now because we don't know for sure what's going to happen. But let's just say that it hopefully it's going to be very exciting for the community. So,
well, I get my flyers from the Nashville Symphony also, and it's interesting to see how they have diversified quite a bit, as a matter of fact, and they're actually doing a pop segment or a pop series to their symphony, and I know there's so much other stuff that goes on here in that area. I didn't know whether that might be an area looking at, because the pop series, I mean, they've had some good performers in their pop series.
We do things like that from time to time.
Yeah, and I think that's a good drawing card for people, and I just. I'm more of a pop person than a symphony person, but I listen to all types of music. I love bluegrass, and I like the old country more than the new country. But I was graduated from high school in '55, so you can believe I'm a '50s person, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. But and the old standards that are still around, and that's what I've noticed, that sometimes in a symphony presentation, that they do a variety of music, and I think that attracts people and speaks to people also.
Definitely.
I mean, we may have our choice, but it's not limited to that. That we like other things too. Who are some of your guests this year?
The guest artists? So Morgan mentioned David Kim, who's the concert master of the Philadelphia Orchestra. He's a violinist. And then we have Terrence Wilson, who's a pianist. And then we have a cellist.
Julian Schwartz.
Julian Schwartz. He's coming in March, I think.
Yes.
Yes. And so those are our three main guest artists. Now, we also, you said something about the pops, and Paducah has tried that in the past. It's a little difficult because some place like Nashville or St. Louis, where they have a full-time orchestra, they're doing 50, 60, 70 services concerts, what I mean. You know, we have 7. So it changes the budget dramatically when you start adding concerts.
Well, I'm sure it does.
And then the other thing is we're dependent upon the Carson Center with dates and so forth because they have their own things going on, and you mentioned other things around town. So there's lots of things to take in consideration when you start looking at adding things like that. But we do typically have at least one concert that falls a little bit on the pop side. A couple years ago we did a John Williams concert.
Right,
which was very popular.
And I love John Williams music.
Yeah. And we are doing that later in the year as well. Again, it's not a John Williams concert so much as it is, we're calling it Cinema at the Symphony. Now, there will be a lot of John Williams on it because you really can't do Cinema at the Symphony without John Williams. But there's other things too. But it's things that people will really recognize, and some things that are very popular in today's culture, like, for instance, one of the pieces we're doing, which is not John Williams, but we're going to be doing Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay.
Which was a big series, as you know. So that would be a really fun concert for people to bring, maybe family or kids or people that don't normally go to the symphony. Would be a really good concert for those folks.
Well, you know, I think that's great that you are doing that, and bringing more of the family into it. That's the key, is getting the younger members of the family involved, and by younger members that can be young married people too, you know,
That's right.
in the 20s and early 30s, because a lot of people think of the symphony as the older generation going to a symphony, but that's not necessarily true anymore.
No. Right.
And we need to reach out to them also. And again, I want to say that I think that the symphony is very, very important to our community. And I want to, and you may want to put out a plea of encouragement to support the symphony. And how can they support the symphony?
Well, first of all, as Morgan mentioned, first-time subscribers get 50% off. So if you're not a subscriber, we would love for you to be a subscriber. If season tickets are not your thing, you know, at least pick out a couple of concerts to come and check us out. And, you know, there's something in our season for everybody, I think. So you should be able to find something. We do have those education programs we were talking about. So for families with children, you know, there's the camp, there's the choral ensembles and so forth, they can get involved. So there's lots of ways that the community can get involved with what we do if they're not already a symphony goer.
Now, Morgan, I'm sure that he will put up on the screen your phone number and how to get in touch with you, but you need to reiterate that.
Yes,
so
of course.
They know.
It's very easy to make a donation, just so we make that clear. You can go to paducahsymphony.org and donate online, or give us a call at 270-444-0065.
Good. We always need to put that out. We generally try to get it up on the screen, where we don't see it here while we're doing the show, but the people watching the show will see it. Anything we've missed?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm looking forward to 50 years. Now, I may not be here for 50 years.
Well, let's not think
we hope
that
so.
way.
but there will be people here, you know. And again, the expansion program, do you plan on expanding more concert dates? Possibly.
I mean, there's things we're looking at all the time. It just has to be the right fit. It has to be the right fit financially, but it also has to be the right fit. You know, another challenge we have, I told you these musicians come from all over the place, and some of them are playing in other orchestras and different things, so we are somewhat limited by when we can get the musicians here too, because they all have families and other jobs and that type of thing. So the way it works out right now, they're basically here 1 weekend a month during what you'd call the school year, and then the summers we generally are off. But you know, as I told you at the beginning, I've been part of the symphony for 32 years, starting out as a player, and we did several outdoor concerts in the summer there for many years. So there's always things that we're looking at. It just has to be the right fit.
Well, listen, I just want you to know that we appreciate you being here with us today, and we need to educate our public more and more about what's going on and the activities. And on your website, they can find a list of the dates and everything there.
Absolutely.
So it's a thorough website. I've seen it, and it's good. But we appreciate you being with us today, and we would like to thank you for being tuned, and you stay tuned for more shows in the future. And remember, use it or lose it.
Can't see as well as I used to. Can't run as far or as fast. Sometimes I think that the old me is becoming exactly that. But when I start thinking of all I don't have, that's when I tell poor me Beethoven was 50 and deaf as a post when he wrote his Ninth Symphony. And he'd say, go with what you got, start from where you are, give it your best shot, keep reaching for that star.